Hello, you guys. Welcome back. This is lesson 3. We'll be talking about how to create your banking structure. These are the pipes and the plumbing that we'll be using to manage the flow of money in and out of our banking blueprint system, right? So we'll be going over things like capital buckets, what they're used for, how many capital buckets you need, as well as what we need from a traditional banking standpoint as well. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get to it. So initially, right, we're dealing with two different systems. We're dealing with a traditional system, which we can't necessarily fully get out of yet, because most of the time that's where our primary income is coming from. That's where our income is already set up to come into that traditional banking system, right? So we have to be connected to it to a certain extent. So what I would advise you guys to do is first get a new account set up, establish a new checking or savings account where a certain portion of your funds from your normal income is automatically deposited into that. And you can easily set this up with your bank. And I'll tell you why this is important in a little bit. But you want to go to your bank, get a new account set up, have a percentage of your income automatically deducted whenever you get paid, and have it placed inside of that new account. So where did this, so where are we going at with this? Where did I get, automatically pulling money out of your account or out of your primary account and put it into another account? Well, that's something that I learned from a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, right? One of the first lessons that is taught in this amazing book about generating vast amounts of wealth is that you pay yourself first, right? So you want to create a system. So the first thing that you should do is create a system to capture your payment to yourself. And you don't want those funds to get confused with any of the other funds, right? So that's the first thing. Set up this account so that you have a place to actually capture that wealth. And we'll go into a little more in another lesson on how to actually use that and what percentage to allocate towards that pay yourself system. But for right now, the important thing is to get that account set up. All right, so the next important thing about creating your own digital bank is to establish capital buckets, right? We have 3 primary capital buckets. We have a short-term capital bucket, we have a mid-term capital bucket, and we have a long-term capital bucket. Each one of these buckets represent what they are called: short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So they're used proportionally to what they're titled as, right? So for example, short-term capital bucket can be used to put capital in places that will have a fairly quick return, right? Our medium capital bucket, those are assets that have a mid-range turnaround time or something that we have a mid-range outlook on. And then we move on to the long-term capital buckets. Those are assets stored inside that bucket that we only touch on the worst case scenarios, or if there's a huge or major market move that allows us to utilize that or take profit from it in a beneficial way, right? So you want to make sure that you have those capital buckets broken down and that you have them organized so that you know what goes in what. And we'll talk about allocation of those capital buckets in a later lesson. Also, at the bottom of this video, you'll be able to find a link to an Excel sheet that I use to break my different capital buckets down and to actually manage and monitor my own crypto assets. So you can look forward to that link right underneath this video, and you'll be able to break your capital buckets down on this Excel sheet as well. So once again, we went over capital buckets, the different capital buckets, why you need them, what they're used for, and then we also went over establishing that savings account or that extra account with your traditional banking account. And lastly, to wrap this up, when it comes to your capital buckets, you want to have a wallet attached to each one of those capital buckets. As I said, the long-term capital buckets, you don't want to touch those assets. So you'll assign that to a long-term hardware cold storage type of wallet, right? Midterm, you may store those assets in something like a cell phone wallet or maybe a computer or a desktop wallet, right? And those short-term assets, you may even store those on an exchange, right? Because those are typically used for trading and making quick, fast gains. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.